Saving America one entrepreneur at a time. It's the Biz Rap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan.
It's Biz Rap Radio, the show that celebrates entrepreneurs and small business with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan.
And welcome to another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Mike Manahan, and thank you so much for joining me today. We have another great show lined up for you on Biz Rap Radio. If you're an entrepreneur, a small business person out there, really want to hand it to you. You are the lifeblood of the U.S. economy. You're what keeps us going. Did you know that most people in the U.S. actually work for a small business? You wouldn't know that by reading the Wall Street Journal. The first article is about, General Motors. The next article is about Hewlett-Packard. And the third article is about Facebook. And they never even mention the people who are actually out there moving the economy forward and creating all the jobs, the small business people of America. Did you also know that as we pulled out of the recession, most of the new jobs were created by small business people? No, but the government's busy handing out bailouts and incentives to huge corporations. They're not creating jobs. It's the small businesses in your community that create the jobs. In fact, those big corporations are busy laying people off. Just look at the Wall Street Journal or the business section of your local newspaper, any day of the week, and you'll see. And they don't lay off. I know a small business person, friend of mine, has about 5 people on his staff. Business has been a little bit tough. He had a bit of a downturn. A new competitor entered his market. He is sweating bullets because he's going to have to cut back some of his full-time staff, maybe a few hours. Meanwhile, the fat cats in the corporate boardrooms in these big corporations are hacking like 10,000 people. Hey, George, looks like somebody screwed up down in Brazil. We better cut 10,000 jobs. Yeah, Bob, you're right. Yeah, they never think about cutting their own jobs, do they? No, but they'll can 10,000 people at a blink of an eye because they think it's going to make the stockholders happy, make their stock go up, and put another $50 million in their own pockets. Anyways, that's the world we live in, my friends. So if you're a small business person, remember you have an obligation. Make money. Yeah, they're called profits. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not a dirty word. No. In fact, you need those profits. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Take care of your employees. And, we've also, I call this the Hollywood syndrome. There's this Hollywood syndrome that business people are somehow these evil ogres who are all out to screw their employees to the wall and take advantage of them. But I know a lot of small business people, and I know small business people that have sacrificed so much for the people that work for them, even people who are extremely dysfunctional and really should be fired, and yet small business people often hang on to those employees like they're members of the family. And you're not going to see that in a big corporation, I can tell you that. Anyway, I want to get on with the show. We've got a fabulous guest lined up. Now, to get a little bit of background here, as many of you know, I'm involved with the South Bay Entrepreneurial Center, which is located in Torrance, California. This is an organization of volunteers who help mentor and coach entrepreneurial startups in particular. And recently we held an event. It was called Hear Her Pitch. It was held at the Toyota Auto Museum, a great place to visit if you've never been there, in Torrance, California. And we had lady entrepreneurs pitching their business ideas. And it was absolutely fabulous. The ladies did just a tremendous job of pitching their various business ideas, and there was a winner. And the winner was Lisa Pegram, and her company is Itamind, and she is right here in the studio with me. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you are a winner. Congratulations.
Yes, I'm very excited about it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your business, Itamind. What exactly is your business?
So my business tracks sales tax, and it is basically a sales tax bot. It takes advantage of the American Taxpayer Relief Act that was passed and renewed every 2 years up until December of 2015, where it officially became a part of the tax code. So that is why we are hopping on this and making sure that people are able to track their sales tax and deduct that. And on average, people save an additional $500 per year when they use this deduction. So we are out here trying to make sure that people are up to date with what's going on as far as the taxes go, because we know that, like you mentioned to me a few weeks ago, that Trump is on it. So why not?
Yeah,
we all should be on it.
Sure, if the Donald is taking advantage of every tax deduction, well, I have a philosophy about that. I don't agree with every tax rule that is written into our tax code, but I think we all have an obligation to take advantage of the tax code to the degree that we can. We should pay no more taxes than the law forces us to pay. And if we can avoid paying a tax legally because the government provides some sort of a deduction, then we should do exactly that. I think we have an obligation to do that. So your app helps track sales tax. Now, I didn't know that we could deduct sales tax. Is it just on certain items, or is it on basically anything you buy?
So, like I said, as of December 2015, it's now in the tax code and it's everything. The thing is that you have to decide, and the states that do have income tax, you have to decide whether you're going to do the standard deduction or whether you're going to go ahead and use the sales tax deduction. But that deduction will end up, for the most part, especially when you're in high sales tax states like California, you'll end up saving a lot more money. And California is one of the states that actually uses it a lot.
Wow. So what you're saying is when I fill out my tax return, of course, I don't fill out my tax return. I don't think anybody does. I know people at McDonald's who are, basic entry-level workers who have one W-2. The tax forms are so complicated. They go to like the corner H&R Block people and pay $20 or $30 to do their tax return. This is ridiculous, but that's a whole other subject. You're doing what an entrepreneur should. You're taking advantage of opportunity. You didn't write the laws, you didn't make them, but somebody's got to figure out how to put them to use, and you're doing that. So if I file my tax return, I can take kind of what's a blanket standard deduction, or alternatively, I can collect all of my sales tax and actually take that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Wow. But that's really complicated because I'm thinking about it. Look at most of us today. We use credit cards. We're buying gas. We're buying food. We're meals. I mean, Uber. Everything. All of these things are being charged to our credit card, and a lot of us are not very good with collecting the receipts, but I guess you really need to see the receipt. So does your system actually track the receipts?
So there are, it's a tracking system, like you said. So there are capabilities for physical receipts if you want to pay with cash. We try to go ahead and scan it using OCR technology, where it's something similar to where you have a check and going to actually physically going to the bank, but using the bank app, and then it scans it and it tells you this is how much we think you spent on sales tax. But for the most part, a lot of people are doing transactions with their debit cards, credit cards, $5 and below, and it's been increasing steadily. So on a regular basis, when people just log in with their debit card information or their bank account information in general, you can go ahead and track based upon the CVS transactions. It'll say CVS store number 132, zip code 90012. I know exactly where you are, and I know exactly what you spent on sales tax for that transaction.
So is this being tracked off of the credit card transaction?
For credit cards and your bank account.
So you would have to register like all of your credit cards and your debit card for the system to track all of this stuff.
Exactly.
Once you've registered it, then any transaction that you use with that credit card or your debit card, your system's going to pick up the amount of sales tax that's paid.
Exactly.
Wow, that is just amazing. And then at the end of the year, I guess you can pull off a report to see how much money that was, and you give that to your tax preparer, and voila, you saved maybe $500.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, I love it. I love it. So I wonder if people will spend more so they can get a bigger tax deduction. Well, you're right. In the state of California, I mean, you can pay, and it's, what is it? It's 9 to 10%.
Yes.
Yeah, and so if you think about it, if you're, say, let's say a couple or a married couple living together, you're both making $80,000-$90,000 a year, so you got combined income $160,000-$170,000. You're supporting your 3 kids. You're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're probably spending $100,000 a year. That's $10,000 in sales tax.
Yes, and and it doesn't stop you from taking other credits as well. So, that's the good thing about it, is that this is just an alternative for the standard deduction, but it has nothing to do with, the credits that you can get as being a student, or some of the childcare credits that are available. So you can still use these in combinations with other things. It's just not it's either or.
Right. Okay, it is Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio. I'm speaking with Lisa Pegram and of Idamind, and we're going to be back right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's Mike Manahan, your host, and I am in studio today with Lisa Pegram. She is the CEO of Idamind, a new app that you can use to track the sales tax that you pay. And many of you may not know, but there's an advantage to tracking your sales tax and deducting all of your sales tax for income tax purposes. Federal income tax purposes, as opposed to taking the standard deduction. If you are a person who makes a reasonable income and you spend a lot of your money, you're not a miser and saving it all, you're going to be paying a lot of sales tax. And in a state like California, where sales tax is very high, it could result in a savings. And again, Lisa, thanks for being on the show.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, now I love entrepreneurs, and as you know, and my listeners know, I do teach entrepreneurial finance at California State University, Dominguez Hills. I love teaching that class. It's just a great bunch of budding entrepreneurs. But you're an entrepreneur. You started this business recently. Talk about your inspiration. How did this come about?
Well, it started off, I want to say about 5 to 6 years ago. This is before Uber was as popular as it is now. I apologize. And so basically, I just was in a cab, and someone offered me my receipt, who was closing out the tab, and I said I don't want it because I'm not here for business. I don't need my receipt from the cabbie. He said, "Hey, do you know that we charge you tax? And for every single cab ride, there's a small little portion of it, and you can write it off." I said, no way. So I went home, checked it out, and actually ended up being true. So that was the beginning of my inspiration. I realized later on that I couldn't write off both of them, but, I was able to find out that, writing off one was actually more superior in certain cases than others. So I'm trying to appeal to the people who are trying to save their money any way they can.
So how is it that some cab driver knows the tax laws?
And I don't even know if he had his, and I don't want to, say anything, but I don't even know if he had, he was a full citizen yet. He had a very strong accent. So, it just goes to show you that a lot of Americans are not on tax codes.
Yeah.
We're out here not.
Well, you'd mentioned how large the tax code is, and refresh my memory. How big is this tax code of ours?
Oh, 52,310 pages.
Wow.
Right now, and I think it's gotten even larger.
Wow, that's just amazing. So, and that's as of what year? Do you remember what
2014.
year? 2014. We had over 50,000 pages of tax rules and regulations. And by the way, folks, you're expected to know and comply with every single page. And if you do not, unlike with Miss Hillary Clinton, intention is not a defense. And you're expected to know those rules and regulations. You're expected to comply with them. And if you fail to do so, while they may not, the IRS has the right to seize every one of your assets and put you in handcuffs and throw you in jail. So just remember that. A lot of people take this tax stuff lightly. Oh, well, I'll file my taxes when I get around to it, or I don't bother keeping my receipts, and I don't bother doing this and doing that. Obviously, the IRS is also about getting money out of you, and if you're making $15,000 a year and you take an extra $20 deduction, they're probably not going to chase you because they can't squeeze any money out of you. But for those of you in what I would call the upper middle class income bracket, the doctor, the attorney, the small business person, particularly the small business person, because that's who this show is targeted to, you are targets of the Internal Revenue Service. They love you because they know that if they come after you, they're going to get you for something, and you don't have enough money to fight the IRS. They don't go after Donald Trump because he does have enough money to fight the IRS. Mark Cuban and George Soros, hey, they could fight the IRS for years. In fact, isn't it who's the big Warren Buffett?
Yes.
Warren Buffett, he's engaged in a huge lawsuit with the IRS about paying taxes or not paying taxes on certain of his business entities. But, the average Joe, you pretty much have to roll over and write them a check for whatever they want, because if you don't, it will you just don't have enough resources to fight the federal government. But anyways, Lisa, back to your story. Enough tirades about the federal government. We love our federal government. The only thing I can say is it's definitely better than the federal government in Ecuador, the federal government in Russia, and the federal government in Somalia. So we do have some advantages here, and actually probably another 40 or 50 countries. Anyway, enough on that. Back to your business. So, okay, you had this concept. We can track this stuff. You obviously investigated the rules. How did you get started? What people did you have to get involved to make all of this happen?
Well, I, had to go through a lot of iterations of contacting people that I thought, were professionals in the industry. But I ended up doing an incubator, and it's called the Founders Institute. And while I was in there, they urged us to contact people that we thought would be leaders in the industry. So on campus, I'm currently still a student, getting my PhD at USC.
Hey, congratulations. Good for you.
And so one of the fellow students, he was actually electrical engineering, and he was completing his PhD and, was finishing up his dissertation, and he was really great at AI. And the large component of this is going to be collecting data, because the app will be free. Mm-hmm. So we'll be collecting data and trying to go ahead and make some suggestions to people about what deductions they could use or what their transactions mean in the long run. So the first thing on my head was like, I need to go ahead and get somebody who has like some great machine learning skills. So he was one of the first people that I recruited for the team. And I knew that this sales tax deduction was the beginning as well. So we wanted to go ahead and pursue other deductions. So I knew I needed also a CPA, and I happened to work with a CPA / CFA via my developers. And it just worked out organically. So some of the people I reached out to along the way, just, trying to see if I can get meetings with them. And then some of the people just organically happened. So
that's good. Now, how far along is the product at this stage? Is it ready to launch or almost ready to launch?
Well, we're looking at it was supposed to be a late November launch, and it's looking now like it's going to be more of a December launch. But that's kind of the game you play when you are developing software. You have to see it's not always as as on point as you prefer.
Right.
Yeah.
So this means that if somebody were interested, somebody's listening to this show, they could potentially get your app and use it in 2017 to track their sales tax.
Yes, and that is the goal. We are trying to get this out of here so that people can get on to their platforms on Apple and Apple Store and just go ahead and download it and use it for 2017.
Wow, what if you don't have an Apple? What if you got, like I do, an Android?
I know, that's another iteration down the road.
Okay, so you're working on that
We're working on that one next.
Okay, great. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I'm discriminated against because I'm an Android user and not an Apple user. And, we talk about classes in society, and I think this has become we've got two classes in this society, the Apple people and the non-Apple people. And I think the Apple people are real snooty and prejudiced against the rest of us. They think they're Apple people. We're better than the rest of it. I know a friend who, when he said he pulled out his Apple phone and he said, "What do you use?" I use this Samsung thing. The look on his face was as if I had leprosy or something. It's just incredible. Technology discrimination. It's unbelievable where our country's going. Okay, well, that's great. So the product is about ready to launch. Now, you mentioned it's free for the users. How do you make money?
Well, we're going to go ahead, and the first year is going to be all about the users joining the app. And then the second year, we're allowing services through the app. We're going to be updating it and allowing accountants to go ahead and market to the users. So they can market with their deals, whatever's going on, by their zip code. So you can go ahead and swipe over and by your zip code and look over and say, hey, I want to go to this CPA and he's offering me a $30 deal for my taxes, so why not?
Well, that makes perfect sense because after all, again, as we talked about the top of the show, I mean, just about everybody's gets somebody to do their tax returns for them. well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that that's true, but it seems to me that's true. And I know people who literally have minimum wage jobs and have nothing but one W-2, and they still get somebody else to do their tax return. So I expect it's true for a lot of people. So, yeah, a great way of marketing. I'm using the app. I'm collecting the information for tax purposes anyway. And tax professionals who specialize in doing tax returns, and they can reach out to me through the app, and I guess you'll get some revenue off of them for that. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'm excited about that referral service the second year. So I'm already been recruiting accountants, and they have been reaching out to me, trying to get in contact with the people who have already expressed interest in using the app. So I've already kind of been a liaison, if you will, just in the beginning phases. So I can't wait till it's actually launched so that we can keep it going. Okay,
with the 30 seconds we've got left before we take a break, if somebody's interested in the app or interested in talking to you, how do they contact you, or how do they get information on your app?
I would say go to www.itemmind.com, ITEMIND.com, or email me at Lisa at itemind.com, or Instagram at Taxnista.
Okay, fantastic. Check it out. Go contact Lisa. We're going to talk a lot more about Itemind and what Lisa is doing. Great entrepreneurial story here. I am, of course, Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Again, thanks so much for being with me today. Biz Rap Radio, of course, the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. I am in studio today with Lisa Pegram. She is the CEO of Itemind. It is an app that you put on your Apple phone, not an Android phone. And not yet on Android. You will be able to do it at some point, I'm hoping. And again, Lisa, thanks for joining me today.
Yes, of course.
And just to refresh everybody's memory, this app tracks sales tax that you pay. And a lot of people don't know, but within the tax code, you can actually choose to deduct the cumulative sales tax you've paid in a given year, as opposed to taking the standard, individual deduction. And in states where there's a lot of sales tax, or for people who just spend a lot of money, that could actually amount to a savings, and that's the whole objective. And Lisa, you said you've done some studies or surveys, and there's an average savings that you think people can achieve using your system. And how much is that?
That is $500 additional dollars from
Wow.
the standard deduction. And so that's just on average of people who actually use it over the course of time in comparison to the years when they did not use it.
Well, I can't imagine why everybody just wouldn't be signing up for it. You mentioned you're going to be kind of doing a soft launch here in before Christmas, and that hopefully the app will be available for use as people move into 2017. And even better for the you listeners out there who might have an interest in using this, it's absolutely free.
Yes, of course. It's free. I want everyone to use it. The goal here is for people to save some money.
Okay, so you're going to get a lot of users on there, and then once you've got the users, you're going to monetize the product by then selling advertising to people who might be interested in communicating with people that spend a lot of money on sales tax, which would probably be like CPAs and tax accountants and financial advisors and people like that.
Yes, exactly. Tax prep people.
Yeah.
And a referral service, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What, do you mind? I do want to be just advise the listeners that in addition to having Lisa on the show, because I think she's got an extremely interesting product. It's tax related. I think a lot of people are interested in that. And in addition to that, Lisa was also the winner at the South Bay Entrepreneurial Center Hear Her Pitch competition, where a number of lady entrepreneurs got up and pitched their businesses, and Lisa was crowned the winner at that particular event. I don't know if we crowned you. You didn't actually get a crown, did you?
No, but it was still nice.
Yeah. But in addition to that, Lisa is actually trying to raise some money for her business. And Lisa, how much are you trying to raise at this stage of the game?
So right now, immediately, we are looking for a $250,000 round, and we're offering up 20% of preferred equity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking to raise $250,000. And by the way, just again to refresh people's memory, this is not a complete startup. You actually have developed the product. You've got a working prototype, and it's almost launch ready, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. How big do you think this can grow? I mean, do you have a projection or any even a guesstimate? How many users do you think you could get using an app like this, say in the next 4 to 5 years?
Oh wow! To go out 4 or 5 years, I'm hoping we can get to the almost 2 million mark, and that's a very lofty goal. But the thing is that if you compare us to other companies like Mint, for example, year one I think they had 500,000, and then by year two I think they had 2 million by year two.
Now, what is Mint?
Mint is a software where you can log in and it tracks. It's one of the inspirations I had actually. You can log in and track your spending, and it tracks. It gives you suggestions like you spend a lot of money on eating out. You spend a lot of money on gas. It lets you know what you spend your money on.
Okay.
And it's just ideal for just kind of getting an understanding of where you're going, where you're spending your money. So a lot of people were just really excited about that, and I think that the large part of this is going to be educating people about the fact that they can save this money. But I think hearing that you can write off sales tax is something that I would be very excited about if I was a consumer.
Oh, really? And when you think about it, I mean, in the United States, I mean, we've got I don't know how many people actually file tax returns. Do you know how many people file tax returns?
I did have that number. It's I can't even recall it, honestly. I mean, obviously it's in the millions.
It's got to be in the hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of
well,
millions,
of course, people do file jointly. But even so, if you've got
hundreds,
if you even people filing jointly, if you've got let's say a husband and wife, they're both going to need to have the app, so that would count for 2 users because the husband's got to have the app on his phone and the wife's got to have the app on her phone, and so you could. I mean, when you said 2 million, I'm thinking, my God, I'm thinking 50 million.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be conservative. That's conservative, the 2 million. That's all.
Well, that's absolutely great. Now, you developed quite a team around you, and you've shared previously with me the team that you've got working for you. How did you manage to convince these folks that they should come in and throw their lot in with you and work on this project?
Well, there's a few different ways. One of them, actually, just kind of having an honest conversation with people, being honest about where you are. And what your vision is. And I think if you have a good vision for your company, people, will help you. They'll help you as much as they possibly can. And so that's kind of where people have stepped in. There have been some people who I asked to be a part of it that weren't, but it just so happened, the way the chance is that someone better stepped up to the plate. So
that's great.
So it's, you always have to have the positive mentality, and people just kind of float towards you if you are, very, confident in what you can provide and what you can do. So I'm happy that these people are a part of the team, considering that they're working up equity at this point.
Well, but I think that's a great story because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who need help. They've got, in many cases, great ideas. And they've even moved those ideas forward with their own resources, but they simply don't have the capital to pay everybody to help them. And for whatever reason, they're hesitant, they're reticent to recruit people to basically work for free. But something that I believe it was MIT did a study on this, that entrepreneurs who have built their team before they get their major funding tend to be more successful in the long run than entrepreneurs who get funding and then build their team, because in the former case, the participants in the team really have bought into the idea and the concept. They're not just there for a paycheck. And there's a lot of people out there who they may have full-time jobs and they're working and they're gainfully employed, but the idea of being involved a few hours a week or something like that in a little startup entrepreneurial venture is kind of exciting and interesting.
Right.
When you consider how much time people spend in our society, like absolutely wasting time, texting, looking at the internet, watching stupid shows on television. you can probably find somebody out there, and I'm speaking to the audience now, the entrepreneurs who are listening. You can probably find somebody who'd, okay, give me a little chunk of your company, and I'll give you 3 or 4 hours a week. Not a big deal. And people with great expertise and experience. So I congratulate you on having been savvy enough to build that team around you.
Yeah, I was very lucky, very lucky. But I mean, also persistent. You have to have a vision in your head about who you want to be involved. And, I had these kind of blank personas that I had in my head about who I wanted to be in there. And I kept trying until I was able to fill it with somebody who was of quality. Uh-huh. So, sometimes it may have to be blank for a little while. Until someone steps up to the plate that actually fits. Until
you find that person.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another question. I've heard it's said by so many people that I've talked to over the years that connections and people they know are so important to them achieving their success. And what have you done to develop your, I guess I would call it a network, the people that you know that you communicate with?
Well, there are a lot of things going on in Los Angeles, and I think that we're just lucky at this point to be, going through this change where Silicon Beach is, right there. And so there's a lot of, relatively young companies that are out here. There are a lot of events, obviously things like Startup Grind. There are just so many things to go to where you can go in and start to begin to network with people. And if they can't do anything for you, then you need to ask them who they know. Who can, help you or might have expertise in that area. And so by expanding your network that way, you're able to kind of reach out to pros in the industry or, wherever you may need them. So.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about that as soon as we come back from commercial break. It is Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio, talking to Lisa Pegram, and we'll be back right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Mike Manahan, and we are in studio today talking to Lisa Pegram. She is the CEO and founder of a company called Itamind. They have developed a piece of software that tracks sales tax, with the idea being that you can actually deduct that sales tax for income tax purposes. You can use the sales tax deduction as an alternative to kind of the general blanket deduction, that personal exemption that most people use. And I don't know all the details, but your tax advisor could certainly advise you of that. And Lisa, once again, thanks for being on the show.
Yes, of course. I'm here. I'm happy.
Oh, that's great. Well, you have a wonderful smile, by the way. I love people that smile. I mean, you see these people that are frowning all the time. You think, what's wrong with those people? They're frowning, but you have just a beautiful smile.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we talked a little bit about your product, what it does, kind of the inspiration for it, your trials and tribulations to get it to where it's going. The product is going to be available very shortly for people who do want to track their income tax. So before we go further, let me once again give an opportunity for you to tell people how can they contact you, how can they get more information on the product.
Right. You can send me an email at lisa@itamind.com. My website is www.itamind.com, ITEMIND.com. Or you can just go ahead and go on Instagram and follow me at Taxnista. And, we have a lot of great tips on there as well. So it's really fun to kind of follow and see what's going on. I also track my entrepreneurial experiences. So.
Well, that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
So that leads to the question. You're launch ready. I know you're trying to raise a little bit of money, $250,000. And by the way, if anybody's interested, definitely contact Lisa if you think you might have an interest. Well, I would say contact Lisa if you're a potential customer.
Yes.
Contact her if you're a potential investor.
Mm-hmm.
And contact her if you think you might be some sort of a strategic partner, because entrepreneurs need avenues to expand their business, and all of those are opportunities that I'm sure she would appreciate talking about. But let's talk about marketing. Marketing has changed so much over the last, I would say probably 20 years with the advent of the internet. Then we've moved to cell phones and mobile devices, and we've moved to new media outlets like social media. What's your marketing strategy for this product?
Right. So my persona is going to be including millennials and Gen X, right? So we are super into social media platforms. And so what I've found that really works for me right now is Instagram, which is why I gave you guys my Instagram. But it's just something that keeps people interactive with the brand of the company. And so what I'm trying to do is establish the brand even before, it launches, so that people feel comfortable with me and they want to support what's going on. So I all about using social media, using Facebook, if it applies, Pinterest. Using these social media platforms really can help get the word out about your app or even your company in general.
Okay, so I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but my show, Biz Rap Radio, we have a website, we have Facebook, we have a Twitter account. We don't have an Instagram account. Sounds like to me we probably should, but I'm sure there's lots of listeners who are in the same position as me, particularly some of the older folks. What does Instagram do again? Give us the story. What is Instagram?
Well, you know what? The new craze is Snapchat, and so that's kind of like interesting. But you know how Instagram recently tried to steal Snapchat's thing. So Snapchat is a whole bunch of videos that you basically short snippets of videos that disappear after a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Instagram is photo based.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with Twitter, we had the words,
mm-hmm.
now we have the photos, and then we went to the video. So in competition, Mark Zuckerberg felt some type of way since he owns Instagram now, and really, really tried to buy Snapchat multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get them to sell. So anyway, he added that capability to Instagram. So now it's video and it's photos. So I can also chronicle my life. Like since I woke up at 5:00 this morning and, hey, I was over here trying to listen to other people pitch this morning at 5 a.m. Can chronicle everything that's going on in addition to photos. So I'll post photos. For example, there was a tip today about the FSA, and using that in your healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I can post a photo of someone getting a checkup and say, hey, this is what's going on. So it's like a mini blog, Twitter combined with photos.
Wow. So see, and I guess you have to start to change your mindset. But I should probably be taking a photo of you in my studio.
I really want to
at the microphone with the headsets on, and posting that on my Instagram account.
Yes, and you can actually easily connect all of them. So on my Instagram account, I connected my Facebook and my Twitter. So every time I post something on Instagram, you can see it on my Facebook and my Twitter.
Oh wow. Okay. So I got to improve my technology. There's no question about that. So, but this is becoming an extremely important part of marketing, the social media aspects of it. And you think you can generate enough buzz with the social media to really start to drive users to your product?
Yes, and there's this thing called influencers. They exist all the time, but influencers definitely help on all the platforms. So people who can retweet you, people who can, even if you have to pay them a couple of bucks to do so, it's worth it because you end up getting people who are actually alerted of it, and it's a different form of advertising. Right.
I tell you, everything has changed so much, but it's great that it has, and I think it's probably more efficient, and also I think it really has allowed smaller entrepreneurial companies to have a bigger impact. I know one of the things I love to talk about is the small companies I find that are operating on a global basis. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, the only people who could operate globally were multinationals, these huge corporations. And now you find there's some guy working out of his basement. He's manufacturing products in China. He's selling those products in Europe. He's got 3 or 4 websites, and he outsources certain activities, maybe some of his graphic work here and some of his product design work here. And he's doing this. He got this international business. He's running it literally sitting in his basement in his underwear. It's just amazing.
It is. It's exceptional. What's capable people are capable of now. So yeah.
So what advice do you have? Because I know for a lot of people, they'd love to be entrepreneurs. But there's a hesitancy. It's, am I right for it? Or what are the challenges? Am I going to be able to do it? What advice do you have as an entrepreneur for somebody who is out there listening right now who might be thinking, should I do it or shouldn't I do it? Or should I just stay working at the post office for my $32,000 a year?
Well, you put it that way. I think being an entrepreneur is just an amazing experience. You can think of it as And because I'm getting my PhD, I think of it as a thesis, or think of it as a project. It could be a hobby. It could be something that you could potentially be successful and paid for. You want to make an impact in this world. And so I always encourage people to go with, if they're thinking about it, to just go ahead and try it, because you never know when you're going to be ready. You never know. You're never going to have that I'm ready, I'm 100%, everything's lined up and ready to go. You have to just go ahead and try it and see what happens. Some people transition from, a full-time job slowly into it, which is what I was doing. Or you can go ahead and take the big leap, but only but you have to start.
Right. Okay, I'm going to talk about one more thing before we sign off for the day, but I think this is really important and it's dear to my heart. And I'm hope I'm not offending anybody with what I'm going to say, but Lisa, you're a female, obviously. But what the listeners cannot tell, you're also an African American. You're also fairly young. I don't know. You don't have to tell me how old you are, but you're obviously not 60 years old. I really so much believe that entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of where we're going. We need more of them. And I think that sometimes, I've heard this from people, well, I don't know I'm a woman, or I don't know I'm a minority. Can I really succeed at this stuff? You obviously are. So are you different, or can anybody do this?
Anyone can do it. You have to have enough faith and confidence in yourself about, what you can contribute, and know that, your product is of substance. But it is a little bit difficult sometimes to have people, there's different factors, like you said, like there could be sexism, ageism, a whole bunch of other things that you can deal with, but you just have to keep going regardless of those hindrances. And it's fine. I mean, it's not even that much of an issue on a regular basis. You find that people are either looking for the guy who has, tons of experience, the young whippersnapper. Like, it's kind of like, are you the new Mark Zuckerberg? Like,
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're looking for the next best thing. And if you can prove that you're going to make them money, that's what they're looking for.
Well, you are truly an inspiration. I can say that. And, if I said, can I hold up, as a university professor, if I can hold up a role model to my students in their entrepreneurial finance class, I would say Lisa is a role model. We're out of time. I got to thank you for being on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I love the show. It's so great.
Oh, that's great. This is Biz Rap Radio. Of course, we're here at Biz Rap Radio, fixing the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. I am your host, Mike Manahan, and we'll be back again next week with another edition of Biz Rap Radio.